So when science told you that we are animals, they are not wrong. Listen to this now. They are not wrong. Because if an animal died and you put them on the ground, they decay just like humans. Where they are wrong is that there is another layer of life in you. That life came back the moment Jesus knocked on the door of your heart and you open it. Man was actually alive before God breathed upon him. Because the same process God created the animals was the same process man came to be. They came out of the dust. In Genesis 2:7 says, and God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became soul. Now, if you read in Genesis 1:24 where animals were made, you will see that actually animals came out of that same dust. In verse 24 of Genesis 1, it says, and God said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth. Were those beasts living when God said they should come out of the earth? Yes. Were they running around? Yes. Were they eating? Yes. Were they defecating? Yes. Were they breathing? Yes, they were breathing. They were doing everything that is suggestive of life. They eat, they digested it. And so when God formed from that dust, man was actually alive. There was a level of life in him. So when God came and breathed upon him, that was another layer of life that came into him. And that was the life that left Adam when Adam disobeyed God. That was the life that left him. So the other life that was in him when he was formed on the ground remained. And that was the animal life. That is what we call the bio life. The Zoe life that came into him, that Jesus now brought back to man, which is supposed to be the emphasis of the church. That Zoe life was what Jesus came to bring out. That was what he brought you. So man and animal came out of dust. When God made Adam and put him in that garden, there were two trees he needed, and they represented two different states of existence. It was life and death. Your existence is dependent on which of the tree you eat. God didn't tell him not to eat of the tree of life. He said, this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, don't touch this one. It leads somewhere. But we found out later on that there was another tree in that garden called the tree of life, and God never warned Adam not to touch it. Which means he was to eat from that tree like every other tree he had been eating from. Unfortunately, he had not gotten to that tree of life, so he never partook from it, because that was actually the reason why God asked him to leave. He said, lest they put their hand forth and eat of the tree of life, and their state becomes perpetual. So when Adam died, it was actually a state of existence. In the day you eat of this tree, you shall surely die. So the tree of life represented eternal communion with God and the gift of immortality, while the tree of the knowledge of good and evil presented to man a choice between obedience and disobedience that led to death that Adam died.